Hey, it's not our Vortex. Just thought I'd do another vlog about the war that's going on at the minute. Really, I'm not really sure what I'm going to say in this. I've not planned anything. I just thought I'd just reel off a stream of consciousness and on. I mean, it's probably not going to be that much advanced geopolitical analysis in this one. It's more just I've more sunk into a state of despondency, to be honest, about the situation. A sort of, sadly, a sort of acceptance of this is a new reality that we live in, really. Which is sad, really, actually. I'm sad that it's come to this, and still, I've almost become detached from it, which is the saddest part, really. Though I'm not detached from it, that's the thing. I'm not. I know people in Russia who are against the war, speaking out against it, and I know people in there, still in Russia itself, who are against the war, and it is a war. I mean, that's the thing. You have to call a spade a spade. Russia has invaded Ukraine. That is, I mean, there's not even any ambiguity there unless you're swallowing the Putin propaganda pill. That is the reality that everybody accepts now, that we are in I think this actually is a proxy war already. I mean, that's, like I've mentioned this before in the other videos, but the West, if you want to call Europe and the US the West, is in a proxy war. And the West has always been a weird concept anyway, just as the East, I guess is whatever the alternative to that is, but it's always been a strange concept in a sense, but it's always been, I guess, the idea of sort of like the vague ideas of the Enlightenment and the liberalism and everything, allowing for plurality of opinion and free speech and everything. That's always been the associated thing. But there is sort of there is now more of even a markedly distinct difference between Russia and the West. Again, but we're back in just Cold War 2.0, which is the saddest shit ever. Like, can humanity not think of anything newer? I mean, this is the thing, I'm not despondent. Like I said, I'm just aghast that we're here. We've just got Putin just reverting to the sort of totalitarian empire sort of dream. I've thankfully seen a lot less of the sort of, I don't really see much of it, actually, to be honest. Like, there is a sort of idea that there's people who are standing for Putin or whatever, or making excuses, like I said, for swallowing the sort of Russian propaganda pill. Thankfully, I've not seen a great deal of that. I've seen people trying to put this into a sort of historical context and explore the reasons for this. I personally don't think that, I don't completely buy the idea that Putin is a creation of the West. I do not. I mean, there are historical factors that will have, like the history of Russia, even from post-Soviet sort of history. We could have. I mean, it's not we though, is it? Really, is it me as an individual? It's just people, decades ago making decisions. I mean, that's almost the worst thing about all politics. Like, I'm quite politically pessimistic, really. I mean, I have been for a while, really, and this has just even almost enhanced that pessimism. I'm not responsible for the actions of my government. Just as a lot of Russians aren't responsible for the actions of theirs. And, this is despair vlog, but that's the horrible reality of it, really. We should probably exist in a world where politicians are more accountable for their actions. But we exist in a world of power games and power relations and power itself, where I think Putin, and to be honest, what I've been doing for It's just paint next to it. It's paint, not blood or anything. But what I think the saddest thing about Putin, in a way, it's not really sad, but I just mean the obvious thing about him, I don't really think there's an ideology that he's driven by. Maybe some old idea of the empire, the Soviet empire, but divorced from the actual ideal or the sort of end goal, or the stated end goal of the Soviet empire, which was full communism, Dorovich, or whatever, Dorovicia, I think it is. But I'm not sure. Jezdný najde. I know, jezdný najde. Já понимаю по-русски маленький, это правда. I know a bit of Russian, but not great. Like mentioned in other videos, been there for 2 years, relationship there, most meaningful relationship, taught there, blah blah blah. I'm not going to retread old ground. Yeah, the sort of, where was I? It's hard really to have much hope. So I'll try and find a little bit now. So I guess people are speaking out of Russia. I think these sanctions are going to really, they already are hitting Russians. A lot of Russians are escaping Russia. I know personally people who have left Russia because of this. I follow a few Russian vloggers, and a lot of them are just scarpered because they don't want to live in this new reality. They don't want to accept what their government is doing. I know Russians who are speaking out against what Putin is doing and continuing to do so on media outside of Russia, so that people outside can see that not all Russians buy this bullshit that Putin's peddling about the denazification. On the denazification point, this isn't often, you'll have heard this already in it, but it bears repeating, is that yes, there are, as in any country, you do have nationalistic sort of movements and everything else, so the Azov Battalion is the commonly mentioned one. But these are minority elements in a diverse, relatively liberal democracy, right? That happens in any liberal democracy. In fact, if you have a liberal democracy, you are going to have fringe groups, like whether it be, fascistic or, I don't know, far left parties or nationalistic parties, The UK itself isn't free of this. We've had our BNP movement, for example, the British National Party. I wouldn't call them fascists, but you've had like a sort of nationalist party in the sort of UKIP, UK Independence Party. I'm not calling them fascists, by the way, I'm just saying they're nationalistic. That was part of their platform. So no actual country that has a sort of democratic parliamentary system is free of extremist elements. And also, from what I understand, the far-right nationalist party is, again, it's a minority. It's like something like 1 or 2% of the overall vote in the last election. I think it's like general election, I believe, went to like a sort of far-right party. So yes, there is a element, but it's a minority element, and the idea that that's been peddled to the Russian people that they're going in as somehow saviours, saving Ukraine from this sort of fascistic, Nazi thing, is absurd. And Zelensky is himself a Jewish, for fuck's sake. You cannot, I'm sorry, but you cannot be Jewish and a Nazi. I don't think that's really a compatible thing at all in any way, sense. I mean, we don't have to go over the history. We all know what happened to the Jews in the Second World War from a National Socialist party, the Nazi party. We know that. We don't have to go over the history of it. It's horrible and it's terrible. But the thing is that Putin is like I said in the vlog before, this is an information war we're in, and the horrible irony of Putin in a lot of ways is he just almost like inverts what's actually going on. So he says, And the latest speech, actually, let me just get on to more contemporary events. There's so much evolving and happening as it goes on, it's hard to keep track. The latest speech where he was talking about, essentially he said, the translation is difficult, but it's basically he said that he wanted to, I can't remember the exact words, but it was essentially saying like cleanse we need patriots, this sort of like nationalistic jingoism that is a factor in fascism. Really, I'm going to call a spade a spade. Putin is now. He is a fascist. The language he's using is the language of fascism, and also the language where he's talking about cleansing the system, like purification of the traitors and all this, the sort of enemy within. That is straight out of the fascist playbook. You find a scapegoat, things are going badly in the war, right? Like, we all know that the war is going a lot worse than Russia expected. They're facing a lot more resistance. The whole international community is supporting Ukraine because of they've been forced into this position. No one in fucking Europe wanted a war with Russia. What the fuck? And the thing about NATO, like saying, oh, we're doing it because we want to defend ourselves against NATO, and having bases around near the border, the Russian border, and that we're denazifying. It's absolute bullshit. Это говно большое, да? Это правда, это большое говно. This is the biggest shit ever. Biggest load of bollocks I've ever heard in my life. Sorry to be blunt, but that's exactly how I see it. It's obvious that it is that case. And I'm just repeating myself now, but I mean, it's just absolute shit. But I guess if you're being fed this shit, at the government, it's just been broadcast into your eyes and constantly in the Russian state media. Unfortunately, people will buy that shite that they're being told because it's all they're getting. It's the only the only line of information that a lot of Russian people are getting is the media, which is state run. I'm repeating old stuff, but the foreign agent law, everything. Medusa, I think, are Fox now. I think, from what I understand, which is one of the independent press outlets in Russia. One of the ones I actually would refer to when I was internally in Russia was Medusa, because it's like one of the only real sort of independent voices, independent media sources, which is in Russia, or was in Russia. I don't think there even are now. But yeah, and the reports of there were some rumours that Russia were going to start using chemical weapons. That was fucking chilling. That was like a week or so ago. That seems to have, but there's so many atrocities going on recently. It's just even hard to keep track. I liked the video of Arnold Schwarzenegger I saw recently where, I'm not particularly politically aligned with Arnold Schwarzenegger, really, but he has actually taken some proper, based sort of stances on things, really. Like, the Capitol Hill, he was a Republican who is willing to take a stand, and he communicates his points well. Actually, the latest video he just released, I think today, was incredibly well communicated, where he admitted, that he was talking about the history of his own father in the Nazi forces invading Leningrad, which was the siege of Leningrad. I've actually got a book I'm reading out at the minute about Shostakovich and the siege of Leningrad. And the siege of Leningrad was horrific. It was a horrendous extended siege, which was a huge amount of suffering that the Nazis inflicted on the Russian people. Really, I've read about it, and this book about Shostakovich I'm reading at the minute, the Russian composer, and it was horrendous. Really horrendous. Props for Schwarzenegger for mentioning that, and including it as part of his speech, which he gave today. And he also gave a speech about how he admires Russian culture, many aspects of Russian culture, and he has a great love of their people. Same for me. I'm a great lover of Russian culture, music, literature, etc. Even film, Tarkovsky, all this sort of genius. Really, Russian. Russian culture это отлично. It's world class. But unfortunately, I think a lot of Russian culture has actually emerged often as a result of through struggle. I mean, it's really had to struggle to even exist, especially for the writers. And George Orwell wrote about a lot about this, about how, you know, a lot of Russian writers just had to struggle for the right just to say what they wanted to say. A lot of them had to leave. I mean, the obvious example was Solzhenitsyn, the Gulag Archipelago, which revealing all the horrors of the Stalinist gulags. Anyway, that's all history. We don't want a repeat of history. We don't need a Stalin 2.0. Putin can piss off. But is he going to? I mean, he's not going to go without a fight, unfortunately. I guess the thing now is hoping that he doesn't go even more nuts. But the latest speech is incredibly worrying, and not least for myself and for the people who are in Russia who are speaking out against this. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm here, where I am in the UK, and I'm not really in any real existential or otherwise danger from Putin. The only time I'm ever going to be in danger is if Putin goes full mentalist and declares war on the wider Europe. Then I'm in a bit of danger. But we've got to hand it to the people in Russia who are talking out about this openly and protesting as well. They're brave. They're braver than a lot of people would be in that situation. The easy thing to do would be to shut up and say nothing. But, I mean, just to regurgitate cliches, the only way for evil to triumph is for good men or women to just say nothing. You'll do nothing. And that's the important thing now. Like, I've been doing trying to do little bits and bobs. Like, this is such a stupid thing, but I had my birthday recently, so you could like raise money on Facebook. So I raised like £288 for the UN Humanitarian Relief Organisation, which is a small thing. It's a drop in an ocean, right? But what is an ocean but a multitude of drops, as to quote Cloud Atlas, which is lame and shit as fuck, but oh well. But yeah, I'm trying now to think, and I've had my life has been difficult recently. I just lost a job recently for no real reason. I don't really understand why, but whatever, it's a job. This is more important. What's going on now? This is history in the making. So, and this is a long vlog, I know, 17 minutes already, but we have to really think about, as individuals, what can we do? I mean, we're even considering taking a Ukrainian refugee, I think, at the minute here, where I am, but not 100% on that if we're going to do it yet, but that is probably definitely a good thing to do if you're able to do it. And then you can sort of try and just help someone. It's literally about helping somebody and being kind, isn't it, really? Because the Ukrainian people, unfortunately, were thrown into this terrible situation by the actions of a scared little man who, I don't know what the hell's going on in his head, really. Seriously. It's easy to be despondent now, but I'm trying to stay at least a little bit hopeful the change will come. I know I've rambled a lot. That's where I'm at, really, with the whole thing now. I'm just feeling despondent, sure, but I don't know whether peace talk. There was some news about like ceasefire talks between Russia and the Ukraine. I imagine the Russia aren't going to back down. They're potentially probably going to ask for very unfair terms of surrender or whatever. So I'm not sure where that's going to go. I guess that would depend on. I mean, I don't know. On that note, I don't have enough information to really reliably form an opinion, basically, on that for now. There's not enough information out there, so I can't really comment on it, properly. Rambling a bit now, anyway. But yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with the whole thing, and I've taken a little bit of a break from the social media of it. And there's loads of videos you can watch of tanks getting bombed and things getting bombed here, but and I suppose it is important to view all that stuff, but it's really traumatizing if you're just doing it constantly. So I'm seeing the odd thing here and there, but I'm trying consciously not to spend too much time looking at it, because it just makes you go into despair, really. And the main thing I'm worried about basically is currently is obviously the Ukrainian people. I hope that they can find some way out of this conflict. I'm worried for the people in the Russia I know who speak out against this insane conflict, and just have to try. There's no silver lining in this conflict actually, but you have to try and find at least hope is the thing, really. Yeah. And Europe's been in horror and chaos and trouble before, but it's bounced back, I guess. That's all I can sort of think as a sort of hope, but I know it's not much, and it's sort of glib almost, but yeah. So hopefully we'll find some way out of all this shite, and we'll come out the other end somehow without it escalating into a real huge fucking horrible conflict. Anyway, that's my take on where I'm up to now with the whole thing, and I'll try and maybe do a vlog next week where I, provide some more objective content, I guess, about everything. But at the minute, it's just hard to feel nothing but despair and a sort of sad acceptance of the new reality that we live in. One other thing actually, interesting enough, I think there's news out there that there is now deep fakes are being utilised by the Russian propaganda machine to apparently there's a deep fake of Zelensky basically telling his troops to surrender. I've heard that. I'm not really looked into it much, but I have heard that is a thing that's happening. So I guess be mindful and really check sources before you share anything, I suppose. Because this is an information war we're in, and I think the Russian state are incredibly clever at misinformation. We all know this by now. So just be careful with stuff you see out there. Check your sources. If it's not like a reputable source, if it's not like from Associated Press or from, like a reputable source of information, then don't trust it. With that, don't trust RT as well. Fucking hell. Anyway, that's that for me. I'm gonna go to sleep now. I'm pretty knackered. I'm just sort of gonna really sleep, so I thought I'd just reel off a bunch of thoughts about this thing. Anyway, in a bit.